in picture there for Australia.
He looks confident. He is in reality.
Hails from Blacktown in Sydney's West in Australia.
It's a good lift.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a slightly controversial topic, and it's been a big buzz in the weightlifting community, and I've seen a lot of these type of training posted lately, so I thought I'd make a video on it. Now, before I talk about the topics we're going to discuss today, this is not a stab at anyone in particular. This is not a stab at this type of training or coaches that like to implement this form of training into their weightlifting. It's simply me pointing out the facts, pointing out what I believe is the facts and what I believe is truthful based on my resume and what I've achieved and what I've done with my athletes and, you know, my 10 plus years of training experience, and also conversations with other elite level lifters who follow the same principles. So yeah, I just want to make it clear that I'm not, ratting out this method. I'm just simply referring to the sport of Olympic weightlifting. Now, in saying that, the way this type of training, okay, speed and power training. So the topic of the video is speed and power training isn't as important as you think for Olympic weightlifting. Now, this actual training itself is super applicable to other sports, just not Olympic weightlifting, okay? So I'll give you an example. Doing this for track and field, athletics, throwing, doing this for soccer, doing this for rugby union, rugby league, sports that aren't Olympic weightlifting, that don't have such a high demand on strength. This type of training is fantastic, okay? It's going to have tendon health. It's going to make you strong. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to make you faster. It's going to make you more powerful. But it's not going to make you the strongest version possible like you need to be in a sport like Olympic weightlifting. And that, I think, is the ultimate takeaway that I'm trying to bring towards this video, okay? So like I said, no hate towards these ways of trainings. Again, it's useful and applicable for what sport they're actually doing, okay? Again, heavily strength and conditioning focused. But for Olympic weightlifting, I'm talking about the snatch, clean, jerk, squat, pulls like that. I don't feel like this training is super useful, just in my personal opinion. But I'm going to give you the points, and I'm going to give you the examples, and I'm going to give you my reasonings behind it as to why I feel this training is honestly just a waste of your time if you're trying to get strong and better at Olympic weightlifting. So in no particular order, I've got a few points written down in front of me, and I'm just going to kind of go through each point and just sort of elaborate like that. And yeah, I've got some cool clips here in the video as well that you guys can see. We've also got some Olympic weightlifting stuff coming to the end, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, like I said, no particular order. First point we're going to talk about is the principle of specificity, okay? Yes, I got it right. It's a tricky word. The principles of specificity, yeah? If you are going to stand up a 200 kilogram clean, okay? It doesn't matter how fast or powerful you are. If you simply cannot pull that weight and get under it and stand it up out of a squat, you are not strong enough. And that is the bottom line, okay? You need to be able to front squat that weight for reps and sets if you want to clean it, okay? I know I'm using 200 kilos, which is an extreme example, could be any weight, okay? Now, the principles of this type of training is I want to be fast, I want to be powerful, I want to be more explosive, and I get that, okay? But the numbers that you're trying to achieve, if they're just too heavy for you, it doesn't matter how fast and powerful you are. If you are not strong enough, you're just simply not going to be able to stand the reps up. So the principle of specificity is really important. And a lot of people, I think, don't think about that, right? If you are training for Olympic weightlifting and you're trying to get the strongest snatch and clean and jerk you can possibly get, right? If you're not training the snatch and clean and jerk, the specific movements you are trying to get better, and the accessory movements like squat and pulls, which are going to help you get better, you're not going to get stronger. It's really as simple as that, okay? And like I said, and I'm always going to refer back to this, there is nothing wrong with this type of training. I just have a problem when this type of training is made to be the main focus point in an Olympic weightlifting program, when it simply just should not, okay? All right. My next point that I'm going to talk about is we're going to talk about technique. Okay, now these positions that they practice when they're doing this type of training don't really mimic the proper positions in Olympic weightlifting. So I'll give you an example, all right? I don't know what any of these movements are called, but I see a lot of it on social media. They kind of do like banging clean high pulls, banging snatch high pulls into like a power snatch. That does not mimic the Olympic lifting movements, okay? You'd be better doing a above or below the knee hang, or doing a block work, which is where you're working on brushing the bar on your thighs, which is going to mimic that second part in the snatch or clean like that, okay? These types of movements do develop more power for sure, but it's not actually applicable. And again, we go back to that first point of specificity. It's not specific to what we're trying to achieve. getting stronger at the Olympic lifts, okay? And again, guys, I'm referring to Olympic weightlifting. That's what my channel is about. I'm not referring to track and field or any other sport like that, because if you were doing this type of training for that, that's totally fine, because again, your focus is completely different. Your focus is playing a 80-minute game on the weekend. Your focus isn't trying to snatch and clean and jerk as heavy as possible, okay? So technique in these positions where they practice these different movements isn't really specific to what it's actually going to achieve when you're doing the snatch and clean and jerk, okay? They'll do really fast jerk dips, they'll do really fast tempo squats, that's not really mimicking what you need, okay? I'll give you an example, right? If we do a barbell back squat, all right, and we're controlling the bar down, we're driving out of the squat as quickly as possible, okay? Some of these athletes will just squat the bar down as quickly as possible because they want to mimic, get far more speed, fast twitch muscle fibers, etc. That just doesn't make any sense, because you're not loading your quadriceps up, which isn't going to get your quads stronger, and you're not going to be able to have stronger quads as a result, meaning your Olympic lifts aren't going to be as good. Like, what I'm referring to, guys, it's really simple. It's not rocket science, okay? And like I said, we see all these different points, we see all these different things on social media, and it can be so easy to look at these types of trainings and think, oh, this is what I need to do to get better, when really it's the grunt work that works overall. And like I said, if that was the case, then we'd be seeing every track and field athlete, every rugby player, every thrower coming to Olympic weightlifting and breaking world records, but we don't see that, okay? Because the principle of specificity, like I said, okay, they're not training specifically for what it is. And again, that links into what I was saying previously with technique, okay? These positions don't mimic technique, okay? All right, so next thing that I'm going to talk about, all right, is the principles of this method, okay? They believe, when I'm talking about I'm talking about the people that believe this method. They believe it like it's religion, okay? They're so religiously following this. They know this is what works, so they'll feed it to everyone, okay? They believe that strength training makes you slower, which is an unbelievable statement, okay? Strength training makes you slower, okay? If you train weights at a high percentage and you get really fast at them, that actually means you're getting stronger. Okay, so if strength training supposedly this contradicts what it says, right? If strength training makes you slower, right, then what is recovery? Like, how does that play into anything? It's a silly statement. Okay, so their thoughts are, well, if you do strength training all the time, you get slow and you don't become powerful, and it's counterproductive, right? But you need to do strength training if you want to get stronger. Of course, you're going to be slower after doing a heavy 95% session. That's normal. That's how it is. And that's where recovery becomes extremely important. Okay. But like I was saying before, okay, if you train weights at a high enough percentage and you get really, really fast at them, well, that means you're actually getting stronger, okay? So if you can move 85% faster than what you did 4 weeks prior, then you've inherently gotten stronger. So I'll give you an example. Week 1 of the program, you're doing clean and jerks at 100 kilograms, all right? You're doing doubles, they look slow, okay? 4 weeks later, you do the exact same way and you're pumping them out. You don't need to rest as much. It's going quicker. You've gotten stronger, okay? Because you move the weight faster, okay? So that is actually strength in itself. So I feel like they're looking at the wrong principles here. They're just looking at how quickly you're moving the barbell, but that's actually not really a sign of how much stronger you're getting. So anyways, this should replicate into your 1RMs, okay? So if those 100 kilos are getting easier, then obviously your 1RMs are going to improve, okay? Getting stronger is about increasing the amount of weight you can lift from program to program. That's it. Lifting more weight, it's weightlifting. That's the bottom line. We're trying to lift more weight. It's Olympic weightlifting. It's not Olympic weight jumping or Olympic weight sprinting. We're doing Olympic weight lifting, okay? So yeah, I mean, you are going to be slower if you lift heavy weights frequently, but that's how you get stronger. And obviously if you follow the correct program, you do progressive overload, you do all the right things, then you will get stronger, which means you'll inherently get faster. It's really that simple, okay? And the bottom line is, I'd love to see these people who do this type of training max out their snatch and clean and jerk. I'd love to see how fast they can actually do it. It's going to look the exact same as what it would look for someone else. There's no difference, okay? Because everyone slows down when you get to heavier percentages. It's just the bottom line, okay? To get stronger, you need to overexert your muscles with volume. So yes, you will feel slower when you're hitting maximum and more weight, but if you actually allow yourself, like I said, to have a proper deload, follow a proper periodization, progressive overload, blah, 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 then it's just a scientific fact that you're going to get stronger. So that is the next point, okay? Let's elaborate now onto another point. Jumps and plyometrics are good for variation and tendon health, and that cannot be denied, okay? So we're going to look at some pros here, okay? 100%. If you can do jumps and plyometrics and hurdles and sprints and leaps and broad jumps and bounding and all that kind of stuff, of course your tendons are going to be stronger. That's an absolute guarantee, okay? But if you're a weightlifter, okay, you need to make your training replicate the sport, which is snatch and clean and jerk. So if you're more interested in doing all these bounds, jumps, broad jumps, plyos, all that kind of stuff, respectfully do athletics. Or do strength and conditioning training, okay? Because that is not Olympic weightlifting training. I love plyometrics. I do plyometrics. I program plyometrics for my clients. But do I make it the primary focus in my training? No, because it's not the focus of what we are trying to achieve. What we are trying to achieve is getting better at Olympic weightlifting, not getting better at jumping. That's just the bottom line, okay? So there needs to be a balance here between what your goals are. And again, this even links back to what we were talking about before, specificity, right? Olympic weightlifting, getting better at the snatch, clean, jerk, using squats and pulls to facilitate that to get stronger, not using things that aren't really going to assist that, okay? Yes, you'll get your tendons stronger if you do more plyometric work, but is it going to make you actually inherently stronger at Olympic weightlifting? No, because it's not specific to what we're doing, okay? So that's kind of the bottom line there. Now, there's a couple of other points I want to sort of talk about. These ones aren't as major, but measuring the speed of your barbell, we see in this day and age, especially in the strength conditioning community, that people try to measure the velocity of the barbell, how much peak force you're producing. They're looking at like how fast you can move a barbell from rep 1 to rep 2 to rep 3, etc. But again, linking back to that, guys, at the end of the day, you can have all this information. It's all handy and stuff, right? But you should be able to dictate how fast you're moving the barbell. You should know whether it feels heavy or not. If we just pull all this science back and just go, oh, you know what, that felt heavy today, or oh, that felt pretty light, I feel good today, and just listen to your body and just understand how your body works, you're going to progress it better, in my opinion. So I don't know. That's just another sort of little point that I want to touch on. The funny thing is, okay, this is my personal hot take, right? The funny thing is, I'd love to see this style of training being implemented after you've done a 95% max snatch and clean jerk classical session, okay? I already said this before, but everyone will be slower at the end of the day because it's called recovery. Recovery is a foundation for improving and getting stronger, okay? And that's just the bottom line. You can't escape that slow feeling, that sluggish feeling after a heavy session, because that is how you get stronger. Everyone knows that if you go above 90%, you're probably going to wake up the next day and feel a little bit sore. You're probably going to be moving a little bit slower than what you did. You can't escape that, okay? So for someone to go out on social media and say, oh, you're going to get faster and more powerful and you're going to be more efficient, etc., like that, like, it's honestly a lie, because to get better at weightlifting, you need recovery. You need to go heavier. You need to recover from those heavier sessions. That is just the bottom line. That's just the fact. And that's just what I truly believe, because like I said, with my knowledge and expertise, and obviously the people that I've had conversations with, multiple Olympic weightlifting Olympians, champions, blah, 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 that we all agree upon the same thing, okay? The only way you can stay fast and snappy is when your body is not pushing hard enough and you're prioritizing recovery too much. So, like I said, these coaches out there that promote this style of training actually don't let you go heavy all the time, because they don't want you to feel slow and sluggish. So it actually tricks you and it manipulates you into thinking that you're actually getting faster and more powerful, when really you're training at sub 85%, and everyone's going to be faster and powerful at those weights. That's the bottom line. If I'm training at sub 80, 85%, every session's going to be snappy and fast because I'm feeling recovered all the time. But I'm actually probably not going to get stronger that way because I'm not going heavy enough to improve my lifts, right? You see what I'm trying to say here, guys? Pretty simple. So that's my little rant / tangent about the whole speed and power training is not as important as what you think for Olympic weightlifting. That's just kind of my thoughts. And I think my main final takeaway of this topic is do what works best for you, okay? If you are doing that style of training and you think it's working for you, that's totally fine. I want you to message me in 10 years' time and tell me how good it was, okay? Because long term, we know what works. We've seen the literature. We've seen the practical results of the best weightlifters in the world, the strongest weightlifters in the world do the principles right. They snatch, they clean and jerk, they squat, they pull heavy, and they do it frequently, okay? Or they do it based on how their body feels, okay? And that is the bottom line, all right? There is no secret formula. There is no, if you get faster and more powerful, or you jump more, or you do more bounds, you're gonna get better at weightlifting. Guys, it's bullshit, all right? And I understand why coaches out there brand this stuff. They wanna seem cool, they wanna be different, they wanna have a novelty on the market, because that is the fitness industry at the end of the day. Everyone is trying to do the same thing, and it's all about how you advertise and market yourself. But I'm a realist and just tell you guys how it is, because I don't like when people put false information out there, okay? Like I said, you can have all the support, all the literature to back up your claims of what works, and if you think it works, but at the end of the day, we know that the best weightlifters in the world do not do that type of training, okay? They might do it as some accessories, but they do the specificity correct. They do the snatch, clean, jerk, squat, and pulls, and they do it often. That's just the bottom line, guys. So that's my kind of hot take on this whole topic, okay? Leave some comments down below if you guys want to talk about this a bit more. I'm pretty set on my opinion with it, but maybe you'll surprise me. Maybe you'll give me something to think about. But they're just a few points that I wrote down. I'm probably missing a few things here, guys. To be quite frank, it kind of annoys me because, again, I feel like it's just people feeding this bullshit narrative that you're going to get better at weightlifting so quickly if you do this style of training, when it's honestly, it's just utter bullshit, okay? You got to get better at weightlifting if you do the classical movements consistently for 10 years on. That's just the bottom line. There is no secret pudding. There is no secret pill that you can take, you know, steroids, whatever people say. That ain't going to do shit, okay? You need to train for a long time consistently. You need to push yourself consistently, and you'll get better at weightlifting. That's just the bottom line, and that's why I have this awesome video of the Russian weightlifters training, because they know what's up. Anyways, guys, please comment. Like I said, leave a comment if you guys have something to say. If you agree or if you disagree, that's totally fine. And of course, subscribe to the channel so we can keep making more content like this. It does take me a lot of time to make these type of videos. They might seem simple to you guys, but I do put a lot of energy and obviously planning and preparing and getting all these things sorted. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. And yeah,